first learned about the idea of servant leadership from Max Dupree. It was at a time where I was moving out of marketing and marketing management into general management for the first time. As a marketer, I had taken on very large projects on a number of occasions, but I never had more than 3 or 4 direct reports. My move into general management was as the senior executive of a rapidly growing company with 25 employees. So the day I got that job, I went to the bookstore to find a book that would help me think about how I intended to lead this company. And I immediately fell in love with the title of Dupree's book, Leadership is an Art. Maybe I also picked it up because it was a slender volume, and I found that he was a great writer on the topic of how to care for your organization and how wonderfully your organization will respond to your requests when they see that your care is authentic. One of my favorite stories from Leadership is an Art was one that I was able to apply in a very powerful way just a couple of years later when the growing pains of one of my marketing services agency were causing serious friction between the creative and the production departments. When Dupree wrote his book, he was the CEO and chairman of the Herman Miller Furniture Company, a furniture company in the same way that Apple is a computer company, which is to say it's what they do with the product that really matters. And his father was the CEO and chairman before him. It was a family business that had grown into a Fortune 500 company that regularly appears on the best places to work lists. This chapter of the book that impressed me so much was called When the Millwright Died. Now, the millwright was a vitally important job in the early days of the company when the workstations throughout the company's manufacturing facility were all powered by a central source, a great steam boiler that transferred the power of the boiler to the workstations through a series of drive shafts and belts. The millwright not only maintained this system, but a good one was constantly looking for ways to improve it. During the days when his father ran the company, the long-tenured senior millwright passed away. Dupree's father attended the funeral and then visited the widow at her home with the friends and the family. And soon after he arrived at the house, the widow approached him and handed him a book. It was the self-published collection of poems that the millwright had written. And in that moment, Dupree's daddy's understanding of leadership was transformed. For while he had always been proud of the way he respected the workers who worked for him, at a time when there was a great bit of labor strife, there was none with his company, but he realized in the instance that he discovered what that book was all about, he realized in that instance that he had only respected his employees as valued workers, but not as poets. And it was no longer clear that this man who had spent so much time working so very hard for his company, if the deceased was a poet who worked as a millwright, or a millwright who loved to write poetry. And he understood that he needed to respect the men and women who worked for him, not as the craftsmen and managers, but as both poets and workers, as creative and unique human beings.